he was the mastermind behind the American Mafia and a man who rose from the streets to become a legend.
To control all of New York City, to ensure all our friends have jobs, we will build construction fronts and bid our way to the top using our unions. We will own the New York skyline, all of it. We'll make a fortune, and the law won't be able to touch us.
The mastermind of the Mafia, Lucky Luciano, he was the mastermind behind the American Mafia and a man who rose from the streets to become a legend. Charles Lucky Luciano is considered by many to be the genius who transformed the world of organized crime. In this documentary, we will explore the life and legacy of Lucky Luciano, from his early days in New York to his leadership of the Commission and his role in World War II. Join us as we delve into the myths and realities of this enigmatic figure. Discover what made him one of the most notorious gangsters in American history. Early life. Born in Sicily in 1897, Salvatore Lucania, who would later become known as Charles Lucky Luciano, grew up in a poor family that struggled to make ends meet. When he was only 9 years old, his parents decided to emigrate to the United States in search of a better life. They settled in New York City's Lower East Side, where they hoped to find work and opportunities. But life in the immigrant neighborhood was tough. The Lucanias lived in a cramped tenement apartment, and Salvatore's father struggled to find steady employment. To make ends meet, Salvatore and his siblings had to scavenge the streets for coal, rags, and other items they could sell for a few cents. It was a harsh and unforgiving environment, where gangs and violence were common. Salvatore was a street-smart kid who quickly learned how to survive in this environment. He made friends with other boys who, like him, had to fend for themselves. Together, they formed a gang that committed petty crimes such as theft and extortion. Salvatore became the leader of the gang, and he soon gained a reputation for his ruthlessness and cunning. By the time Salvatore was a teenager, he was already deeply involved in the criminal underworld. He had graduated from petty crimes to more serious offenses such as robbery and assault. He had also become an enforcer for a local mob boss, who recognized Salvatore's talent for intimidation and violence. Salvatore was quickly earning a reputation as a rising star in the world of organized crime. But Salvatore knew that he couldn't stay in the shadows forever. He wanted to make a name for himself and become a boss in his own right. He began to form his own gang, recruiting young men who were willing to follow him into the dangerous and lucrative world of bootlegging and other illegal activities. Salvatore was becoming a force to be reckoned with, and his ambition knew no bounds. As Salvatore continued to climb the ranks of the criminal underworld, he knew that he had to be smart and strategic. He studied the tactics of other gangsters, and he began to build alliances with them. He also realized that he needed to distance himself from his old reputation as a violent enforcer. He adopted the nickname, Lucky, and began to cultivate a more sophisticated and refined image. Lucky Luciano was born, and he was about to become one of the most powerful and influential mob bosses in American history. Prohibition era. In the 1920s, Luciano saw an opportunity to make a name for himself in the world of organized crime. Prohibition had just been enacted, and bootlegging was a lucrative business. He formed alliances with other gangsters, including Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel, to smuggle and distribute alcohol. Together, they built a network of criminal enterprises that spanned across the country. Luciano quickly became one of the most powerful and feared gangsters in the country. He was ruthless in his pursuit of profits, but he was also a shrewd businessman who knew how to build and maintain relationships. He developed a reputation as a diplomat of sorts, able to resolve conflicts between different criminal organizations without resorting to violence. But Luciano was not content with simply making money from bootlegging. He had bigger ambitions. He saw the potential for organized crime to become a legitimate power in American society, with its own political and economic influence. To achieve this goal, Luciano began to build a structured hierarchy within the criminal underworld. He believed in bringing together different criminal organizations under one umbrella, with a centralized leadership that could resolve disputes and ensure that everyone had a share of the profits. This vision led to the formation of what became known as the Commission in 1931, a council of the heads of the 5 major crime families in New York City. Luciano was the driving force behind this organization, and he used his diplomatic skills to broker deals and ensure that everyone was on the same page. The Prohibition era was a time of great upheaval and opportunity for organized crime in America, and Lucky Luciano was at the forefront of this movement. He was a visionary leader who saw the potential for organized crime to become a legitimate power in American society, and he worked tirelessly to make that vision a reality. We will explore Luciano's role in the formation of the Commission and how he used his power to shape the criminal underworld. The Commission. Lucky Luciano was a visionary leader who believed in organizing the criminal underworld into a structured hierarchy. His ultimate goal was to eliminate the constant infighting and violent clashes that plagued the criminal world. In 1931, Luciano called a meeting of the heads of the 5 major crime families in New York City, and they formed what became known as the Commission. This group was responsible for resolving disputes between the families and ensuring that everyone had a share of the profits. Under Luciano's leadership, the Commission brought about a new era of stability in the world of organized crime. It was a system of checks and balances that allowed the various families to coexist without resorting to violence. Luciano was a master of diplomacy and negotiation, and he used his skills to maintain peace between the families. One of the key factors that allowed Luciano to create the Commission was his ability to build alliances with other gangsters. He formed close relationships with other crime bosses, including Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel. Together, they built a network of criminal enterprises that spanned across the country. Luciano's alliances were crucial in bringing about the formation of the Commission. Luciano's role in the Commission was not merely that of a mediator. He was also a powerful figure who wielded considerable influence over the other families. He was known for his sharp mind and strategic thinking, and he used these skills to build a criminal empire that dominated the East Coast. Luciano's leadership style was based on mutual respect and a shared commitment to making money. Under his guidance, the Commission became a force to be reckoned with in the criminal underworld. After all, Lucky Luciano's leadership during the formation of the Commission marked a turning point in the history of organized crime. He was a visionary who recognized the need for a structured hierarchy in the criminal world, and he used his skills to create a system that brought about peace and stability. His legacy continues to shape the criminal underworld to this day. World War II. During World War II, Lucky Luciano made a significant contribution to the Allied war effort. Despite being incarcerated, he was able to use his connections in the Mafia to help the U.S. government. In 1942, Luciano was approached by the U.S. Navy to help with their war efforts, specifically with the invasion of Sicily. Luciano was able to use his contacts to gather information about the island and the Italian defenses. He was able to provide valuable intelligence that helped the U.S. troops prepare for the invasion. Luciano's contribution was so significant that some historians credit him with playing a key role in the success of the invasion. In addition to providing intelligence, Luciano also helped to keep the New York docks safe from sabotage by Nazi sympathizers. He used his connections to keep an eye on any suspicious activities and reported them to the authorities. This helped to ensure that the crucial supplies needed for the war effort were able to get through. Despite his contributions to the war effort, Luciano's involvement with the government was controversial. Some believed that his cooperation with the government was an attempt to gain his own release from prison. However, Luciano maintained that he was simply doing his part to help his country. After the war, Luciano was eventually released from prison and deported to Italy. He lived out the rest of his days in relative obscurity, but his contributions to the war effort were not forgotten. Today, he is remembered as a complex figure who played a significant role in shaping the history of organized crime in the United States. Legacy and influence. Despite his death in 1962, Lucky Luciano's legacy and influence on organized crime are still felt today. Luciano was a visionary and a strategic thinker who understood the importance of consolidating power and resources. His establishment of the Commission brought about a new era of cooperation and partnership among the major crime families, which allowed them to grow and thrive in the decades to come. Luciano also had a significant impact on the popular culture of his time, with films and television shows such as The Godfather and Boardwalk Empire, drawing inspiration from his life and exploits. However, it is important to note that these depictions often romanticize or glamorize the criminal lifestyle, which is not a fair representation of the true reality. Despite his criminal activities, Luciano was also known for his charitable works and philanthropic efforts. He provided financial support to various organizations and individuals in need, and his donations were often made anonymously. Some even argue that his contributions to the war effort during World War II, despite being controversial, ultimately helped the Allied powers emerge victorious. Today, the influence of the American Mafia and organized crime in general has waned significantly. However, the legacy of Lucky Luciano and his impact on the world of crime cannot be ignored. His strategic thinking and leadership style have been studied and emulated by many, and his name remains synonymous with the Mafia and the underworld. In conclusion, while Lucky Luciano's life was certainly controversial and marked by criminal activities, His influence on organized crime and popular culture cannot be denied. He was a visionary who understood the importance of power and cooperation, and his legacy continues to be felt today. Thank you for watching this documentary on the life of Lucky Luciano. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, please consider subscribing to our channel and turning on the notification bell to be notified when we release new content. We appreciate your support and feedback, so please leave a comment below with your thoughts on Lucky Luciano and who else you would like us to feature in future documentaries. We are always looking for new and exciting topics to explore, and your input helps us create content that is both informative and engaging. Remember, by subscribing, you will never miss an episode of our in-depth investigations into the lives of the most fascinating figures in history. From infamous criminals to legendary heroes, we have something for everyone. So don't hesitate, hit that subscribe button and join us on our journey through the past.